so that they see the cars, they perceive the cars, and they work the art into the cars like it should be. Because this is art. This is the biggest sculpture that people every day come in contact with.
It will beat everything you have ever seen. That is what BMW says about their launch, that they're launching pretty soon a full MEV. It's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to beat everything you've ever seen before. It's a challenge for sure. I mean, EVs, as you know, they're not the most fun car to drive. They feel pretty much the same across the board. So I don't know, maybe they're gonna, do some BMW German engineering there and figure out something completely revolutionary when it comes to BMW, when it comes to the driving experience of EVs. So what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at what's going on here. What is BMW's crazy plan with this beast of an EV, and then we're gonna have a look at the Neue Klasse. Have you seen the Neue Klasse concept? And then you have the Neue Klasse X concept. Two brand new concepts that I think is showing you exactly what we're gonna see from BMW for the next 10 or 10 years or so. One concept I really like. I think it's a great BMW design. The other one, I don't really like that much. So I'm gonna show you exactly both of these concepts side by side and let you know why I really like one of them and then why I dislike the other one. But before we jump into Photoshop and have a look at those two concepts, let's see what this is all about here. What's going on with BMW and their EV ambition? So BMW says, first M electric sedan will beat everything you have ever seen. According to BMW's M boss, the EV quad motor powertrain can deliver as much as 1,341 horsepower. Like, I don't understand. Why do we need that much power in a small car like this? To me, it just does not make sense. It feels like car companies today, in order to make EVs appealing, they're struggling to figure out how to make an EV a proper sports car, how to make it fun to drive, how do we separate it, make it unique from the rest of EVs out there. And I think what they're doing, they're just pushing horsepower. Just put as much power in this thing as possible, and people are gonna go crazy. But Tesla has already done that for 5 or 6 years now. 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds for the Model S Plaid, I do believe. And you have the Tesla Model 3 Performance now, maybe, I don't know, the new one, 2.5 seconds, something like that. But the fact still remains. It still feels like any other EV. So just pumping out almost 1,400 horsepower in this car, it just doesn't make sense to me. Very cool that we have that much power, but it's not going to help the driving. I think it's honestly going to ruin the driving dynamics of cars if we just pump them up with power like this. Instant torque and blah, blah, blah. We've heard it all from EVs before. So this potent new EV should be the quickest accelerating BMW ever. I certainly hope so, with this type of power and also electric power. All the torque. An 800-volt electrical architecture will underpin the model. A few years ago, the idea of an all-electric car from the BMW M brand sounded like sacrilege, but such a car is in the works right now, and based on statements made by M Division's boss, it will be extraordinary. So working on a powerful quad motor setup for quite some time, it is expected to launch its first Neue Klasse-based performance sedan in 2026, so about a year from now, or 2027, and it will be sold alongside the combustion-powered M3. As much as I said, 1,341 horsepower, or 1 megawatt of power. Just nuts. So according to the boss here, the new EV will beat everything you have ever seen. To achieve such a lofty statement, let's see what they're planning here. So BMW is developing its own electric motors and believes that like the S68 engine of the M5 and the S58 of the M3 and M4, its e-motors will be a benchmark. I really, really look forward to seeing exactly what they mean here and how they are going to make this a benchmark and separate, make it feel unique from every other EV out there. 0 to 60, less than 3 seconds. The e-motors could be water or oil cooled, and an 800-volt electrical architecture will enable ultra-fast DC charging. Not sure exactly what that means in terms of actual minutes to charge the car. The batteries will have a different chemistry than those of other Neue Klasse models, and that they will have an improved cooling system as well, which is needed if you're going to have 4 electric motors and over 1,300 horsepower in this beast. The automaker has engineered a system that can control the car's chassis and precisely alter the torque at each wheel, improving the car's dynamic and making BMW feel like Alice in Wonderland. That's a very peculiar statement. It will have neutral, linear, and predictable handling, says BMW. And that is kind of hard for me to see, because we have 1,341 horsepower. You have all these torque going to the wheels, and the computer trying to figure out how to plant all this power down to each wheel, and which wheel has the most traction. I mean, if as soon as you floor this thing, you're just going to end up in a ditch, 100%. So BMW is also considering a 2-motor performance EV that is sold exclusively with rear-wheel drive, and this model would use similar hardware and software but have less grunt than the quad-motor version, obviously. A fully-fledged M version of the first Neue Klasse X SUV, that is going to be a sight for sore eyes, I'm sure. It could also be a future addition to the firm's EV family. And here we have the Neue Klasse sedan, and we also have these beautiful renderings from Fully Leaded. I'm going to link his Instagram down in the description. He is the one who made these renderings here of what an beasts of 1,300 horsepower MEV could look like. I mean, wide fenders, you have it up here as well. Looks like the Neue Klasse concept, but a lot wider. You have the big grille from the Neue Klasse X concept down here below, and some very sharp edges on the side. Just look at the width of this thing. I mean, it looks pretty cool like this, I have to be honest. But let's jump into Photoshop here and let me show you why I actually think the Neue Klasse concept, the regular one, essentially this is going to be, I actually hope this is going to be the next 3 Series, because as I said, I think this design right here, let's pick the right brush first of all, come on. So we have this design right here, and then we have the SUV. And these are both based on this new Neue Klasse from BMW, the design language, but they look completely different. The Klasse X looks more like an iX that's been tweaked and minimalized and product designized, if that's a word, and it just doesn't work for me, this front end. But look at this. The reason why I almost love this Neue Klasse concept on the left here, the sedan, is because all the key features, if you think about what is a BMW when it comes to the graphic features, first of all, we have the kidneys in the front end. We also have on each side of the kidneys, we have 2 elements of light. So used to be the angel eyes, used to be the round circles, angry face, this BMW confident E39 M5 face that I love. And then we have the side view. The proportion stance needs to be proper BMW planted. We have a Hofmeister kink supposed to be in the C-pillar. And those are pretty much, the proportions are very important. The plantedness of the car is supposed to, if you want to design a BMW, you need to plant it properly. So looking at this design here, this actually has all of those things that I just mentioned. We have the 2 kidneys in the front end right here, clearly visible, very minimalistic design, obviously. And then we have the 2 light elements. Used to be the angel eyes or the round headlights in the front end. We still have 2 separated elements inside of the grille in this case, which is totally fine. That's something new, that's something cool, and that is a cool, I think, evolution from having the grills, the kidneys, and then the lights separated like we used to see in BMW. Here, they sort of morph together, so you have the grille now stretching all the way out here, even though this is obviously not a functional, grille that shoots air into the engine bay. This is an EV. This is actually a display, I do believe, this entire thing. But having these 2 elements meld together like this, I think it actually looks very cool. The only thing that I would like to change here is the lower section. I think this lower section with this, I don't know, like star sprinkled texture or whatever this is at the lower section. This, I would like to have something else here. Maybe something that cuts through into the entire rear front end like this, and have maybe some sort of intake in the lower section, something that goes maybe something like this to cool the batteries in the lower section, but just have something to break up this entire surface that we have here. But looking at this, it almost looks like a modernized BMW 2002 to me, and that is not a bad thing at all. Now looking at the Class X concept here, the reason why this doesn't work is because we still have sort of similar graphics to what we have on the sedan, but look at the kidneys here. This looks like Michael Jackson's nose is just so tiny and so squished and elongated in a vertical fashion. It just does not look good to me. This stretches out the graphics and makes it feel very wide. And that is what you want in a BMW. You want to stretch out the front graphics, have it be planted, and make it look wide by playing around with the graphics. That's exactly what's going on here. In this case, this is the complete opposite. Now, we have these very, very thin and very weak looking kidneys in the front end. They are illuminated, but we still have, thankfully, the two light elements right here. And we also have an intake in the lower section, something like this, similar that I wanted to see on the Neue Klasse concept right here, to have some sort of intake to break up, or some graphic feature in the lower section. But these kidneys just ruin it for me. They just don't work. I did a redesign of this. I do believe the only thing I did was just to make these kidneys a little bit wider than this. Just have them stretch out, make them feel confident in the front end. And then we have this BMW tradition that they do right now, to have some very strange graphics in the corner of the front end as well, coming back in the Neue Klasse X. And this is honestly, I think this is exactly what the production version is going to look like. There are not going to be a lot of changes whatsoever to the production version. We saw the patent images, it looks almost exactly like the concept. Now, looking at the side view here of the Neue Klasse concept, this is very beautiful. I really like this design. It looks like almost like a 70s French car, but we still have the BMW key features. The one thing that I would like to change here is, you see how deep the greenhouse cuts into the side here, and I want to have this line, the shoulder line, I want to have this be completely filled in. So if we just take the white here, for example, I want to have it be something like this. Not a beautiful redesign, not my best work here, but you get the point here. I want to have this entire piece be body color. You can see just how much tighter it looks now when we shrink down the greenhouse. It gives that confident look, and also the relationship between the body and the window, the greenhouse, is a lot better in my opinion. It just looks more BMW than if we were to delete this and have the glass go all the way down like we have right now. The relationship here is almost like 50-50 now. Not really, but maybe 55-45, so we have 55 of the surface of the height here and 45 of the height for the greenhouse, and that is too much greenhouse for me when it comes to BMW. But thankfully, look at this, we still have the Hofmeister kink intact. The proportions look proper BMW. Love the lines that we have here as well. This one connecting from the front end through the center portion, and then all the way, wrapping all the way around. So thank you, BMW, for adding one line coming back to this. What I want to see from BMW is to have one single line that wraps all around the car, and that is exactly what we get with this line right here. We have some beautiful looking wheels as well. I do like the rear end. The bumper looks a little bit too static for me. I want to have to be a little bit better integrated than this. And looking at the side view of the SUV concept, the X concept, this honestly does not look too bad. As long as I don't have to look at the front end and just look at the side, it doesn't look too bad. The only thing that I would like to change here is the shoulder line sits all the way down here. So this drags the entire mass of the entire side view, just drags it down, pushing it down to the ground, and doesn't have that, you know, muscular shoulder that I want to see from BMW. But thankfully it looks a lot better than the iX, for example. We have these lines going above the front and the rear axle here as well. And you can see that we have similar styling here for the greenhouse, how it dips down very low into the body. But it looks better here because overall this is a higher sitting car. So a taller sitting car. So it just feels more natural to have the greenhouse dip down a little lower down here, even though it would be probably pretty cool to see this be covered up here as well and just have it a little bit more sporty like that. I think that would still look better, but of course maybe they're prioritizing functionality and you know, vision, how much you can see out the window now. But that, again, doesn't really make sense because now we have all these cameras, sensors, 360 camera, and soon probably we have a drone that flies up here to just check all the the surroundings around you to make sure you're not crashing into anything. So having better visibility doesn't really it's not a good enough argument for me to have this big of a greenhouse. And the shoulder line here is not as sharp as we have on the sedan concept over here, but I do like the wheel design. The wheels look great, beautiful looking wheels. And the graphics overall, I don't mind it being this simplistic, and I think this more static design feels better, feels more maybe natural to have on an SUV like this. I also like the integration of the bumper better than what we have here on the sedan. Now looking at the rear end, this is where it gets a little confusing for me for the sedan. But look at the stance of this thing. Doesn't this feel like a proper BMW to me, to you? Because we have the Hofmeister kink here, cutting up here, and we have this line, and then this very sharp end point in the rear end. And if this is in fact the new 3 Series, I honestly would not mind that at all. You can take this car and you can make it super cool looking. You don't even have to switch out the wheels. I hope they keep the stance like this, like we have in the concept, but usually when a car goes into production, the wheels sit way further in the body, and it just ruins the stance. And if you just switch up this lower section with some quad exhaust here for the internal combustion version, this would be a very, very cool looking BMW in my opinion. Specifically, if you imagine this being a new M3, I can see it looking very cool. Obviously, we're not going to get a manual this time. I highly doubt that they're going to put a manual in this new Neue Klasse design that we have here. And here you can see this line also wrapping around the entire car, looking beautiful BMW. Now looking at the rear end of the Neue Klasse X here, this is probably my preferred view of the rear end. I also made a redesign here. The thing I did here was to just make the taillights just a little bit shorter, so something like this. Again, not my best work. If you want to go and see the proper redesign, it's on the Sketch Monkey channel, where I actually spent some time and put in some effort into redesigning the Neue Klasse X. But just I think they stick up too far into the center of the car. And what that does to me is it feels like it doesn't know if it wants to be a light bar here or if you want to have be a separation. This is sort of too much in between, an indecisiveness if we want to have a light bar or not. So if we're not going to have a light bar, just cut the taillight right here. Or if we're going to have a light bar, just extend it all the way and connect the two elements. This is too much, as I said, in between. But I do like all the chamfers that we have going on here. This is a pretty cool looking chamfer, even though it is these BMW graphics that's coming back here again with some very strange, interesting proportions and graphics for the rear end like we have in the front. Cool looking diffuser, a little bit too static with these pieces right here, but the rear end looks definitely a lot better than the front end of the SUV. The reason why I think the SUV is a lot closer to production than now that I look at them, they look very, very similar. I thought the SUV would have a more production-ready interior, but this looks very conceptual. Still, even though the patent pictures of the exterior looks exactly like the concept here. But looking at both of these interiors, not a fan. Not a fan at all. This is not BMW to me. This looks like some sort of toy car that you're sitting in, and it doesn't have the quality feel that I want to have in a BMW. The steering wheel looks very strange as well. Thankfully, this, as you can see, this is way too conceptualized to be put into production as is. So they're definitely going to switch it up. But I'm afraid that they're going to go too minimalistic with the interiors. Pretty much not just BMW, but every single car manufacturer these days. The interiors, that's where you spend all your time with your car. It needs to be almost like a homey feel. And I'm not, a fan of these minimalist architecture that we have now as well. I want to have small details in the interior. You know what I'm talking about. I've said this so many times before. But overall, looking at both of these concepts, the 3 Series here, which this is definitely going to be, the new 3 Series are 100% going to be based on the Neue Klasse concept that we see here. And I'm excited for this one, specifically the internal combustion engine version of this. I think it's going to be a fantastic little car, great looking design from BMW, very refreshing to finally see something cool and something that I'm looking forward to from BMW. However, the Neue Klasse X is a different story, as we just talked about. I don't really care for this design that much. But overall, it feels like BMW, maybe they're starting to find the red line slowly but surely. and try to implement this Neue Klasse and figure out how they want to mold it into the new direction of where BMW is going to take their brand.